Good morning, all. Let's hear God speak to us through His Word. Luke chapter 24, verses 1 to 12. On the first day of the week, very early in the morning, the women took the spices they had prepared and went to the tomb. They found the stone rolled away from the tomb. But when they entered, they did not find the body of Lord Jesus. While they were wondering about this, suddenly two men in clothes that are gleamed like a lightning stood beside them. In their fright, the women bowed down with their faces to the ground. But the men said to them, "Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here. He has risen. Remember how he told you while he was still with you in Galilee. The Son of Man must be delivered over to the hands of sinners, be crucified, and on the third day be risen again." Then they remembered his words. When they came back from the tomb, they told all these things to the 11 and to all the others. It was Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary, mother of James, and the others with them who told this to the apostles. But they did not believe the women, because their words seems to them like nonsense. Peter, however, got up and ran to the tomb. Bending over, he saw the strips of linen lying by themselves, and he went away, wondering to himself what had happened.
A little bit earlier than I expected, but sets the tone. I wonder if you noticed how many feelings there were in that story that we just heard from the Bible. Did you notice when the women went to the tomb, they were expecting to find Jesus alive, dead? What were they expecting? What was that? I still can't hear you. It's like no one's in the room. Dead? Yeah, they thought they were going to find death. They were going to find Jesus' body at the tomb. I think they would have been feeling grief, maybe sadness. They're kind of going out of reverence to pay respect and prepare his body for burial. And when they got there, they found something unexpected. They found something they couldn't believe their eyes. What did they find? They didn't find Jesus. Yeah, the tomb was open and Jesus wasn't there. I think they would have been so confused. Turn to the person next to you. How else do you think they might have been feeling? Go, have a quick chat. All right. It's okay, grown-ups. You can turn and talk too. What have we got? What do you think they might have been feeling when they got there and Jesus wasn't there? Big voice. Surprised? Yeah, probably. How else? Confused? Yep. Shocked? That's another good word. Maybe a little bit worried. Where is Jesus' body? It should be here. Okay, last one. Sad, yeah. Maybe they were sad. Well, do you know what I was thinking? I'm thinking, how can we understand what it might have felt like to see something that you didn't believe? You just couldn't believe your eyes, maybe even a little bit confused. And I found something at home I wanted to show you. Would you like to see it? Yeah. Thanks, front row. I love that enthusiasm. Now, I have a little bag here with an egg in it. You'll see the egg's very fitting that it's Easter. This is not my usual kind of span of audience when I do these things, so bear with me. I'll kind of keep turning. Do you know, I can make this egg disappear. Do you believe me? No. I've got some skepticism in the crowd. All right, are you ready? No, this one looks like a hole, but it's actually the fabric's getting old. All right, I'm going to do it. On your marks, get set, go. I did it. It's gone. Am I the best or what? I'm pretty... Thanks, guys. What do you think? Did I make it disappear? No? What do you mean, no? In my dress? No, that's my tummy in my dress. My arm? Yeah, see, look. Nothing under my arm. I don't have another arm. What are you talking about? This arm? Really? Do you want me to lift my arm up? All right, okay, you ready? You ready? Bob. Where'd it go? Where's the egg? Shall we make it come back? Are you ready? Can you count to 3 with me? 1, 2, 3. Woo! Very good. Can you believe your eyes? Maybe you're feeling a bit confused. Yup. Would you like to see another one? Okay, all right. Thanks, guys. You are a very joyful crowd. I appreciate it. Let me get it out. Guys, I'm so nervous. Okay. I have a cube here. It's like a dice. Each side of my dice has a different set of numbers. So just like a dice, on this side I have 1. You ready? On this side I have 2. Okay. On this side I have 3. Oh, thanks, Lisa. On this side I have 4. What do you think? Am I pretty clever? The honesty of children. All right. I'll let you in on a secret because I think you've worked out it's a trick, right? Okay. Shall we do it again and I'll show you how I did it? Okay. On this side, I have 1. Sorry, guys, can you all see? But I don't actually have 1. I'm just hiding this one here with my hand. Yeah? She's so surprised. Then on this side, I have 2. But I don't really have 2. I actually have 3. I'm just hiding one with my hand, okay? Can't remember where I've turned and who's seen what dots, so sorry, guys. On this side, I have 3. Yeah? But I actually only have 2, you're right, because I'm pretending there's a dot here. Okay. I see some very concentrating faces in the crowd. And on this side, I have 4. But I don't really have 4, because what am I doing with this hand? Yeah, I'm pretending there's a dot there, okay? Think you got it? Let's do it again just to make sure we're all on the same page. You ready? Okay. On this side, I have 1. Yep. But I don't have 1. Remember, I'm covering it. I'm pretending there's just 1. On this side, I have 2. But do I really have 2? No, I'm just pretending that there's 2. And then on this side, I have, how many? 3, but remember, I'm just pretending that there's a 3rd dot there. I don't really have a 3rd dot. Thanks, Mark. Love it, Bainsy. He looks surprised. And then on this side, how many do I have? 3, but I'm just pretending that there's 3 dots. I don't really have 3 dots, okay? And then, of course, on this side, I have 5. Yeah? And then on this side, I have 6. Woo. Thank you. I wonder if you're feeling a bit unsure, or maybe you've got some questions. How could this be? I can't believe my eyes. Well, actually, do you know what? I think this might have been how the women felt when they came to the tomb on that very Sunday and they didn't find Jesus. We've got lots more to talk through in our service today, and so Mike is going to come up and he's going to explain a little bit more of that passage. Thanks, guys.
I'm glad to be with you this morning. My name's Mike. I'm lead pastor here. I got a message from Rach as I was finishing up the lower service. Are you here? Yes, I am here. I haven't risen. I raised out of bed, but not like what we're talking about today. Jesus has risen. I want you to imagine as we start this morning, is my remote working? There we go, it is. I want you to imagine this morning that as the women went to that tomb, they found what they were expecting. What were they expecting? As macabre as that sound, yes, they were expecting a body. And so they went to the tomb that early Sunday morning with spices. That might feel like a weird thing to bring, but those spices were to cover over the odour, because Jesus had been in that tomb for a little while now, a few days. The decomposing body would have smelt. But also, the spices were part of a tradition of honouring the dead. And so it was entirely appropriate to go to the tomb that Sunday morning with spices to honour Jesus. They were sad. They were sad. Everyone had seen Jesus die on the cross. And what they did is maybe similar to what we're about to do in some ways next Friday. Is it next Friday, Anzac Day? Yeah. On Anzac Day, we remember people who have done great things so that we might have freedom today. They sacrificed their lives, they died. We remember them, we honour them. And if this was the end of the story, that's what we would be doing today, I suppose. We'd be honouring Jesus' death. We'd be remembering him. We would remember the great teacher that he was. We remember the great things that he said. But that would kind of be it. We'd draw some inspiration from him perhaps, but that would be the end of the story. But it's not the end of the story, is it? They found in that tomb something they were not expecting. In fact, it was nothing. They were not expecting nothing. In that tomb, there was nothing apart from some linen, some grave clothes. Somebody had rolled the big heavy stone over. The guards that were there were not there. This was entirely unexpected. And do you think, put yourself in the shoes of these women, right? Do you think they would have been happy, excited, sad, terrified? How do you think they would have felt that morning in that moment? Put your hand up. Sad? Why sad? Someone put Jesus away? Yeah, okay, so they'd be sad there. How else are we feeling? Depressed, yep, at the back. Confused, I think that's a good one. I think I'd be horrified. What would be the natural conclusion you would come to when you come to a tomb or a grave and you expect to honour someone who has died and it looks like it's been desecrated? It looks like someone might have even stolen the body. How has this happened? How could this have happened? This is an outrage. And yet, the story continues in unexpected ways because two men appear in the tomb, and that would have blown their minds, I'm sure. You go through the state of kind of sadness, through to confusion, even anger, and now head explosion, flat out head explosion. And the angels say to the women, why are you looking for the living among the dead? Happy thinking, I wasn't looking for the living. I was looking for the dead to honour our beloved Jesus. But they say, why are you looking for the living among the dead? And as their minds spin, as they try and contemplate all that's happened, it might be like you in the audience then when you're wondering, what did Rach do with that egg? Or how did she put those extra things on the dice? Now, when she showed me the trick this week, even I was like, what? How did you do that? And I made her show me. But, because it's not real magic. Sorry, Rach, where are you? What does risen even mean? I think the women would have been entitled, if not just naturally have said that. What do you mean Jesus has been raised? What do you mean that he is living? They would have quickly, as their heads would have been spinning, gone back to think, did Jesus actually die? Well, yes, he did. The Romans, who were expert at this, they put a spear in his side and water and blood came out. He was really dead. We saw him put in the tomb. And then it was sealed and guarded. What if he did rise? What does that even mean? The angels reminded them that Jesus had said himself that he would be handed over to men, that he would die, and that he would rise again. And all of a sudden, it all clicks. They remember. It makes sense a little bit. And so they run to the apostles, the disciples, and they tell of this wonderful news that Jesus is not dead, but he's alive. And what do they get? They get confused men. The men, I love this picture actually, it sums it up well. Peter, who's speaking on behalf of the disciples in this picture, I think he would have been saying something like this: "Oh, ladies, I understand you're very sad. I understand you want him to be alive, but that's nonsense." Can you imagine that? I mean, that would seem like a reasonable conversation in some ways, because the news is so crazy, it would seem. Have you ever heard or told something that was true or you thought might be crazy, but your immediate response is that's nonsense? I could think of many stories of what I told my parents, which I'm not going to tell you now. But there was one story I'll tell you. When I was 19, I was at university. It was a Monday morning, and I'm with my buddies at uni, and we're talking about our weekends, and there were some crazy stories in the mix. And they said, "Mike, what did you do on the weekend?" I said, "I proposed to my girlfriend." They said, "What?" I look at 19-year-olds now and go, "No way." It was for real. I did. And we're still happily married. The women were insistent that this massive news that they had to share was indeed true. And so Peter runs off to see it for himself. But I find it fascinating the way that Luke describes it. Peter goes into the tomb, he finds the grave clothes on the floor, and he wonders what had happened. He wonders what had happened. He'd just been told what had happened. But the news is so extraordinary, so mind-blowing, so staggering, that I think we all have to go through the moment of wondering, is this really true? Could this really be? Because part of that is coming to terms with the amazing news and all that it means. Now, if you're not sure if this can be believed, if this is some fairy tale or some kind of history, I'm really glad you're here if you are thinking like that. I'm not going to go into all the details, but there are lots of reasons why Christians through the ages and people who have become Christians, millions who have become Christians, have taken this seriously. And one of them is the empty tomb. You might say that's a silly reason. They could have just hidden the body, right? And there's the empty tomb. But the thing is, the disciples, they didn't know how to make sense of the empty tomb. And surely the Romans didn't want this to be true. The Jewish leaders didn't want this to be true. So what's the best way to shut down this crazy story? Tell a lie. Well, lies get exposed. You should know that. Produce the body. And great amount of effort would have gone into finding the body of Jesus so they could say, your story is nonsense. Here's the body. But that never happened. In fact, not only did that not happen, but Jesus appeared to 500 or more people so that the Apostle Paul could bet the whole faith on the resurrection to say, this really did happen, or just go home, eat, drink, and be merry, because it's meaningless. But Jesus has appeared to 500, he says, and you can go and ask them. You can go talk to some of them and find out for yourself. That is a bold claim in the middle of history to make. And it's one that kept changing lives. The disciples, they went from kind of confused, Peter going, I wonder what could have happened, all the way to dying for what he knew to be true. Not what he believed, but what he had seen with his own eyes as Jesus appeared to him personally. And fourthly, since Luke makes a big deal of it, I think we ought to notice this one particularly, the women's testimony. Now, that might not seem particularly special now. I'm glad it's not special now. But back in the first century, a woman's testimony wouldn't even hold up in court. Why on earth would Luke put that in the gospel if their testimony wouldn't even hold up in court? Is he an idiot? Well, no, he's just recording history. This is the way it was. And the only reason he put it there is that's the way it happened. And for these reasons and more, millions of people throughout history have come to believe, not because they switched their brains off, but because they used their brains. They took note of what had happened, of the experiences. This is not a fairy tale, this is not a trick. The resurrection of Jesus has changed history. Because for a little while there, it looked like it was game over. It looked like the end of hope. It looked like death and sin and suffering had won. But that's not the end of the story. The end of the story is that is transformed. That symbol of Rome in power and death and kind of in execution was transformed so that you can wear a necklace that has a silver cross on it. And it doesn't mean the execution apparatus from Rome. It means that Jesus has forgiven sins. It means that Jesus makes alive anyone who trusts in him now and forever. He gives them life. Jesus died. He rose again. And this changes everything. I want you to think of something right now. I want you to think of something right now that you want the power of Jesus' resurrection to change. It might be something sad. The resurrection of Jesus is the beginning of everything sad coming untrue. Just as Jesus undid death, conquered death, and rose again. And how many of our sadnesses are attached to death? The resurrection is the victory over sin, sadness, suffering, and death. If you're feeling scared, I want you to know as you run that through the cross and the empty tomb, that Jesus is king over everything because he rose as the victor, as the Lord over all. I want you to think about perhaps moments when things don't seem fair or they feel unjust. Jesus has conquered sin and death, and he rises as the judge who will judge over all and put things right. I want you to think of moments when the future feels uncertain and doesn't it feel quite uncertain. The King of all history has appeared in the middle of it. The resurrection is the end time event. We're all going to be raised from death, but Jesus appears in the middle of history to show us that he is Lord over all. I want you to think about the world again, because the world, as it presents the good life, that's not the end of the story. That's not the full story. The cross, the empty tomb, and the risen Lord Jesus shows that there is more to life now and forever. What comes to your mind that needs to be run through the cross and the empty tomb to be transformed in the power of the resurrection? Because, friends, this morning, I want you to know that the resurrection changes everything. Everything. Even you, especially you. This room is filled with stories of people whose lives have been changed. This world is full of stories of people whose lives have been changed by the resurrection. Will you count yourself among them? As you wonder. Now, some of you here this morning, as I finish up here, some of you here this morning might need to wonder, like Peter, is this really true? What does it all mean? Keep exploring. This is the most important news you'll ever hear. Some of you here this morning, in fact, many of you here this morning, already believe in Jesus, and I want you to be filled with wonder this morning. I want you to be captivated by the marvelous news that for whatever you are carrying that's hard or sad, Jesus changes everything because he is no longer in the tomb. He has been raised to new life, and that new life is for you now and forever. I'm going to invite a few people to come up and pray, and they are going to pray through a few different things taking them through the tomb and the cross and the empty tomb, that we might see the power of Jesus' resurrection in many things in life. I invite those prayers to come up now.